The reason I sit here, the reason that we all are seeking meditation, reflection, is wanting that experience of peace, happiness, liberation, freedom. And to figure it out that that's more a function of what's going on inside me than outside. That peace and happiness, they're all an inside job. That's why I sit here, going inwards. Trying to understand the real foundation of what I seek, what is behind peace and happiness. It's actually connected to my state of being. That when my own state of being is at its highest potential, when I am my authentic self, peace and happiness come naturally. I am at peace with myself. My heart is happy. My mind is light. And when I am not aligned with my true self, when I'm not authentic, this is heavy on my heart and mind. I can't really be at peace with myself. And so my entire aim is to restore my authentic self. So motivated to give that attention to the development of the self in the deepest way. It is the highest form of self-care, to nurture what is pure and authentic in the self, to restore personal dignity and integrity. That's why I sit here. It's a journey towards the pure heart that can only happen inside. Going into a quiet place, deep inside, and simply awakening the memory of the authentic self and watering it with warmth and love from the divine. Om Shanti.
Testing, 1, 2, 3. Testing, 1, 2, 3. What about you?
Om Shanti, good evening, and welcome to Interview with a Raj Yogi. And tonight's session is inspired by the topic for today for regular students of Raja Yoga, which is spiritual progress driven from within. Now, it's quite interesting in terms of what I was really touched by in terms of this topic. Especially in terms of spirituality, a fine line, at least, I'm not sure if it's the case with I'm sure it must be with other just things that we do in our life, but very easy to maybe have these old habits of forcing things, violence. There's a lot of that in some of our our ideas about spirituality. So I was quite inspired by this topic. And so perhaps maybe if we can explore to begin with about just even determination, to be dedicated, to be committed, what makes Raja Yoga unique.
We've had the word today of attention. This has the word progress. You mentioned the word determination. Sometimes we use the word discipline. And now with Raj Yoga, when I hear any of those words, I can't separate them from love. And, there's a saying that only in certain traditions they talk about God as the mother and father. So I think what happens is that Raj Yoga really doesn't just explore what we want to happen, but how to do it. Things become very forceful if it's, I want that to happen, but I'm not sure how to do it. So I sort of push it through without really knowing the technique or the how. That's a very, very high form of love to provide the method. And so that now all of these, but also very early in Raj Yoga, one of the foundation pieces is recognition, to really have good recognition, of course, of the self. So now my motivation isn't so much to fuel an image, which isn't really a form of self-love, but it can be very deceptive. Now I really want to nurture the authentic self now that I've recognized. So things are all fueled by love, by understanding, having the method. So those missing pieces are provided in Raj Yoga, which means that it's still determination, it's still discipline, but these missing pieces are there. So it transforms into something loving rather than violent.
Would you say that it's because the very approach, the very nature of Raja Yoga is that it is a nonviolent approach because there's love. Some have love for different things out there. Or is that just the ingredient? It's just when there is this personal interest in something that one wants to progress in.
Sorry, I'm not sure I quite understood the question you're asking.
Well, there are many things that we do in life that we do out of love, but there can still be force in it. So, what makes it unique in terms of, yes, I'm sure like for many, just fitness, they love fitness, but there's a lot of force that can happen in terms of that.
I think we definitely re-examine love. And yes, I can have love, but again, there's the so-called love of the image and love of the self. Some like to use the word ego rather than image. Ego and love are on two different ends of the spectrum, but ego can disguise itself really well so that we think a lot of this stuff is going on. But in fact, it's feeding the problem, if you will, the image. So that's not really self-care. So again, that foundation of being introduced, recognizing the authentic self. So that's now where I'm operating from. So it can really then be a true form of love.
I've always appreciated the inner fitness sessions that we've had because we look at parallels in fitness or just in physical situations. And I was thinking about this one parallel when you would ask the participants to stand on one leg. And if there was a strong core, it sounds like there would be a different way of how you would stabilize versus with it when there's a weak core, there tends to be a lot of other signs like gripping your feet on the floor. And the reason why I was thinking about that in terms of this study, a love for want to pay attention, but what if one is very new at it, or of course it's a journey, and so they find themselves in unstable situations or situations that really challenge them to be able to still maintain that determination, that attention, when it can oftentimes kind of go back to that habit of trying to, I'm not sure what that could look like, girding my attention, maybe rejecting, avoiding some of the old habits that can fire. And I'm sure I wonder if that would be the same with physical fitness too.
I suppose with any endeavor, it's going to be the same question that, again, we've mentioned it before, how much easier it is to work with children rather than adults. So working with a blank slate rather than, if you will, there's some baggage that I'm bringing. Because when it comes to the study of Raj Yoga, the term used is renunciation, but this idea that I'm going to have to go back to basics and really kind of heal the foundation, if you will, really sort things out at the foundation. That piece is super important. If I don't spend the time required to let go of the old schema approach and really get a good grounding in the foundation, then obviously I will continue to revert back. Even if I get a good foundation, the pull is so great of the old, but really taking the time to move into this new perspective, to create that foundation, the basics, and constantly going back. I don't know how many times, it doesn't matter how many years Brahmins are in this study, they still refer to, I'm going back to basics, constantly having to be very careful that I'm not kind of drifting off into some old ways of doing it and not noticing it. So there's always that possibility.
What is unique and encouraged in Raj Yoga is to integrate. So when you're practicing, you're still living your day-to-day life, you're still in lots of different situations. And what has your experience been? Because it's not like you integrate on day one. And so what is one doing for the rest of the day when they're trying to incorporate it, but it's quite weak? Because you have to start somewhere.
I suppose that is the bottom line. You have to start somewhere. And yes, originally, sometimes I feel it's so helpful to let people know what to expect. I know that there's a physiotherapist I work with, and he always, he's into educating. And he'll draw graphs. This is what you can expect to happen. On day 5, you're going to feel this. On day 7, you're going to feel this. And it's actually super helpful because sure enough, on day 5, he says, and you're going to want to do this, don't do that. Even though you feel it, it's so helpful to have that lay of the land, but to know that it's drop by drop. There's going to, quite frankly, I know this isn't a pleasant thing to tell people on day 1, but there's going to be a battle. There's going to be opposition. You're going to, to be aware. You're going to have crazy thoughts come into your head. So you're like, oh, okay, yes, they said this would happen, and maybe I might have a better chance of not being affected. But it's going to start, and there'll be times when you'll feel really like you have, I suppose, a split personality disorder. That you're just the old and the new. That's what transition looks like. And I think that's part of the violence, is that we don't acknowledge transition. That we expect I'm going to go from here immediately to perfect. And that's part of the methodology, is how to manage the transition that's inevitable.
Would you say that it's an art that gets better with time only, though, if you practice? Because I don't know, I feel that for many, maybe it's old ideas like, why am I having these thoughts? And may not even realize, I have to stop these thoughts, I have to suppress these thoughts, or I feel bad about these thoughts.
There's exercises that we do in fitness. For example, one's called the pull-up, where you hold a bar and you pull your entire body up to the bar, the chin above the bar, or some actually pull their entire body up. And there are progressions for it, because that's crazy. Unless it's a child can do it, but it's crazy as an adult to ask them, okay, let's do a pull-up. So there's lots of progressions that really set one up for success. And I think, again, that's really helpful, that this is going to happen. Here's what you do to manage when that happens. So you're given the steps and the responses to what comes up. So it is an art. When we talk about an art, there's always a journey to master that art. And so, yes, the art of managing the self is huge to develop because of what transitions look like.
I just want to touch base. Someone on Instagram just mentioned here, BK Salvaraj Master One. Let us know if the audio is better. We tried to turn up the volume. But for those we're referencing about this aspect about thoughts from the spiritual resuscitation. So that was a couple of sessions back, which was super helpful in terms of how I manage my inner world. So please refer to that if you wish to. But Sister Binny has a question here. How do we check if the direction and speed we are working at are correct, or do I need to seek help at a certain point?
The beauty again of Raj Yoga is the directions and the signals of if I'm going in the right direction are both given. I think what's important to acknowledge is what that looks like is very individual. So we all are going to be moving, at a different speed, if you will, but hopefully in the same direction. We're all given the same direction. So hopefully we're all going in the same direction. And there's some signals that we get that helps us know, yes, you're going in the right direction. So to be very attentive, I always say, be very attentive to those signals. They're going to be very helpful. Also, it's beautiful, with any, I was really feeling this today. There's a debate that goes on in the fitness community, which is better, training on your own, personal training, or group fitness. And they all have their specialities, but something I've always appreciated about group fitness, and I felt it today, and really, I think powerful fitness leaders are very aware of this, is the power of the collective, that we can really support each other. And I sometimes think that's the greatest help that we can give. We're lucky in this study. We have souls who have walked this path, so we're not having to pioneer it. So that's a big help, is simply to look at those souls, and their help is that they share really what they experienced. But also we have a collection of like-minded souls, fellow students. And one of the things that the opposition likes to do is separate us, like isolate us. I heard this the other day, that this is what coyotes do, is they separate, their prey from the rest. So really to take advantage of the collective in any way you can, like you are doing right now. Take advantage of the collective. That's a huge form of help. We help each other to stay on track. So ultimately, it is in my hands. How well can I listen to directions? How well can I follow them? Do I understand the signals that I am going there? Like, that's all things that I have to be attentive to, but it's certainly helpful to be around other souls doing the same thing. I think that's one of the top forms of help we have.
Do you have any thoughts to share in terms of, maintaining that determination through the day, along with the accuracy? And there was a third one I was thinking, but it's definitely those two, the accuracy of what I'm practicing, maintaining determination, and perhaps maybe what is driving that determination doesn't become dry. I know you had mentioned about love.
Definitely, I think it's all love. Usually we find, and it's probably the case for all of us, that we embark on this type of journey when things hit rock bottom, when we're experiencing some sort of spiritual or emotional pain. And that's a huge motivator. We wouldn't wish that on anyone, but it appears that's what needs to happen. So in fitness, I've noticed the souls that are most motivated are motivated by two things. No sound. Can YouTube let us know if you are getting sound? Oh, okay. So sorry, it might be the device.
Maybe we'll download this and upload it.
Okay. All right. So sorry. We may have to, it might be beyond our technical acumen at this moment to fix that. Unless we move closer. I'm not sure. It's, So sorry. So, totally lost the thread there. Right. Yes. Two things that drive us. One is ego. We've already talked about that. That's going to be very violent. So that's a good signal. But the other one is, so one's leading us into pain, ego. The other one is liberation from pain. So I've noticed in fitness that these are big drivers. Thank you, Benny. Big drivers. And so definitely when it comes to spirituality, the same applies. Ego can become a very strong driver, just wanting to look good spiritually can really get us very far, push us very hard, but it will become painful. It will become very uncomfortable, actually, because the point of this whole study is to become free from ego. So there will come a point when it will not be possible to continue unless I have aligned with that intention or objective. So the only other possibility left for me is I want to become free from pain, the pain of being inauthentic. So it's really important. And in the physical case, we don't say revise because the pain will remind me, right? If I don't do it accurately, if I don't do it properly or regularly, the pain of the body will remind me I have to do this. So that's really good feedback. Spiritually, it's amazing how numb we can become to pain, spiritual pain. So we have to revise. We have to revise. Why am I doing this again? What's important to me? So we're constantly revising, what our objective is. That's really, really important.
So, of course, we're running late because of the IT.
The technical seems to be working.
We are so sorry for those on Instagram. But I think that we will be having a new device tomorrow. So we will be able to have something proper for next time. So the last question, Brahma Baba and the original students, it just seemed like they were able to keep that determination, that momentum, and that accuracy and that love all together at the same time constantly. Any thoughts about that?
I don't know if I can completely suggest what was going on inside those souls, but it might be a lot of things we've already talked about. They took the time to develop a very strong foundation. Their basics were very, very good, and they consistently maintained those basics, that foundation. They constantly revised their aim and objectives. So the method and why they're doing all of it, they were constantly, and they had the support of the collective. Really, really important. So I think some of the things we've been talking about, which we see in fitness as well, physical fitness, those who maintain right now, there's so much I find interesting because there was a lot of resistance during the pandemic, and it was really interesting to watch who was not slowed down, if you will, who was not deterred by all the obstacles that emerged. What was it? What were the factors? And I think it was a deep concern for their well-being. So that's huge. Again, the avoidance or preventative measures, avoidance of pain is a huge motivator. They had a community connection in place. So the power of the community was very big in keeping souls going. And they had a long-standing, the ones that really stayed with it, they had a strong foundation of regular activity. So for them, it was unusual not to be able to experience that. So we want to have such a strong experience of that foundation that we fall in love with it. We love the way it feels being soul conscious. We love how it feels to be free from ego. So when I have a very deep love, we talk usually about love for God, but even God is in service to those states. So really to fall in love with the experience I have at those moments that I'm able to access practically spirituality, able to feel, okay, this is what it's like, the authentic self, and to love that feeling, to fall in love with it. That would be a very strong motivation.
Well, thank you, Judy. And thank you for those online. I know we are running late. And of course, if anyone has questions, we can certainly extend the topic till next week, but we'll just wait and see how things unfold. Actually, we will not be able to have the session next week because Sister Judy is away. And so we will have an experience session on the Tuesday, and we'll resume the following week. But we wanted to remind souls of the Raksha Bandhan program. Om Shanti, Ricardo, bye. The Raksha Bandhan program, which is taking place on Friday evening, 6:30 to 8:30 in the evening. Its information is on the website, so please register. Please extend the session. Okay, we will. And if you have questions for our Sister Binny, please let us know. I would like for us to explore a bit about the link between love and attainments from practicing the basics. Otherwise, determination can become force. Personal experience, and I think others have experienced that too. But we also want to mention, I believe we're planning to change the practical meditation sessions at Academy to inner fitness. So that's a surprise, Ricardo. But I think that Judy had suggested that because those who had attended inner fitness at Heavens found it was very meaningful. But so there are lots of sessions on site online. So we do encourage souls to visit the website, the center's website, calgary.brahmakumaris.ca, to find more sessions that you might be interested in. Thank you for joining. We didn't have a reflection because it's getting late. So that's why. Om Shanti.